Aquis listed Time to Act, Epic code TTA, are a listed operating group that seeks to identify, develop and scale up undervalued and underperforming clean and renewable technology assets and companies. As well as capital, the group brings expertise and hands-on support to the businesses to shape strategy for a clean energy future. Former chairman and now CEO Chris Heminway joins us today to cover the latest developments. Hello, Chris. How are you today?
I'm very well. Good to see you, Alan.
Good to see you too. So, Chris, of course, you've been at the helm as chairman for some time, but congratulations on your appointment as chief executive at Time to Act. Can you outline the group's mission statement and the aims and strategy for the coming year?
Yes, thank you for the question. So I think it's fairly clear. Our mission statement you can find on our website, but our mission statement focuses on highlights delivering value to our stakeholders within the activities and the sectors that we choose to play in. And delivering value is the most important part of what we do as Time to Act. So we've been building our platform, putting in place the processes and procedures over the last couple of years. We've been operating a little bit below the mainstream radar screen, and now 2026 is going to be the year in which we make a lot more out of our listing. We focus a lot more on growth, and we really begin to raise our profile as a stock market listed entity.
Excellent. Well, as you already pointed out there, the Time to Act website outlines the global drivers supporting group investment strategy. That's, of course, energy security, rare earth supply chain squeeze, clean tech market growth, and, of course, the clean hydrogen fuel source that will be so important for the future. Now, as the newly appointed chief exec, what are your top operational priorities for Time to Act over the next 12 to 18 months?
Okay, so in terms of operational priorities for the existing group as it stands, we have two businesses. Our first business is Diffusion Alloys, which is a coatings company, which is absolutely unique in what it does in terms of the scale and capabilities that it has. So we're very often sole provider of our coating technologies to our customers. In terms of priorities for 2026 is really to ensure that next year is really the growth year for Diffusion Alloys. We've already put out some public statements in terms of our expectations as to the profitability of the business for next year. Also in terms of the size of order book that we are chasing. So my first operational priority, make sure that we deliver on those opportunities and capturing those opportunities. Second priority is within Greenspur, which is our second business. Greenspur is an earlier stage development company. We have developed a new type of generator, an axial flux generator for the wind turbine industry, primarily for the wind turbine industry. And my operational priority for next year is ensuring that we get that technology into the mainstream. Again, we put some news flow out fairly recently on a recent design win, which gets us into the tidal sector, and delivering on all of the opportunities that we have for Greenspur is a very important focus.
Okay, well, aside from Diffusion Alloys and Greenspur, of course, you have identified Versarion PLC as the strategic acquisition, or the first strategic acquisition for Time to Act. What is it specifically about Versarion that aligns with Time to Act strategy?
Versarion is a very interesting group of technologies. If you look again at Time to Act, as well as our Cleantech market focus, we are very, very much an advanced materials company. So advanced materials in terms of the coating know-how that we have. The Greenspur business, whilst it designs a physical generator, a key part of the expertise or the technology within Greenspur is understanding magnet technology. And in fact, our magnet technology, we are completely agnostic within Greenspur as to whether we use a rare earth magnet, whether we use a ferrite magnet, whether we use a gap magnet. So we are used and work on a couple of development programs whereby we are the magnet technology expert, and that is an advanced material technology. So when we look at the Versarion portfolio, within Versarion, you have a very, very, very interesting Spanish business called Nanomat. And Nanomat is developing a supercapacitor for use in energy storage. And that has obviously significant clean growth applications. but as well all of the other advanced material capabilities within Vasarian really round out our portfolio of what we can do with materials.
Okay. So on the Vasarian deal, can you tell us how you plan to fund it, and also what will be the expected effect on shareholder dilution and leverage?
Okay, so what I'll say in terms of funding is that our key principle within Time to Act as a group is to operate very, very conservatively. And so we guard our cash and our cash flow very, very aggressively. And so what I think I can say today is that if we get to pursue this acquisition, it would be done on a very conservative basis. So we'll, of course, look at using a mixture of our existing resources, new financing, new equity, all of those, but with a predominant message that we will be very conservative in the way that we approach this.
Okay, that's good to hear. Can you give us some idea on timeline for reaching a decision with the administrator? And also, are there any approvals required before you complete this or any other transaction?
So without wanting to get into too much detail on timelines, you will have seen from Vasarian's own public statement that they have raised what is called a notice of intention to appoint an administrator. That notice of intention runs for 10 days. It gives Vasarian PLC as a company 10 days of protection from its creditors. The administrator, therefore, is not formally appointed until the end of that process. That 10-day period can be extended a number of times. And so we're in a shady, murky interim period at the moment of waiting for the administrator to be formally appointed before we can formally complete any acquisition or complete our negotiations. So in terms of where we will go, we're in the hands of the lap of the gods at the moment in terms of precise timing. And sorry, Alan, your second question?
Are there any approvals required for, once you, or if and when you get to the stage of approval with the administrator, are there any other approvals or processes you would have to go through to complete the acquisition?
So the key approval, because this is involving some interesting advanced materials technology, it requires National Security and Investment Act approval. So that is something that we have applied for, we will apply for, we will, I'm sure, receive, but again, the timing of the receipt of approvals of that is somewhat out of our hands at the moment.
Understood. So looking into 2026, Chris, in order to drive the company's strategy, where do acquisitions such as Vasarian sit in terms of importance alongside driving growth at Diffusion Alloys and Greenspur?
I think we shouldn't allow an acquisition to distract from the fact that we are growth focused, that we require all of our businesses and our existing group of activities to grow. And so very, very much we have an underlying focus on growing those two businesses this year. Acquisitions come on top of that. Acquisitions can be significant and interesting and important, but ensuring that we grow the underlying businesses, the key operating businesses that we have at the moment, very key part of what we do.
Understood. Well, thank you for that. We've already covered some of these points, and of course, some are less certain due to being out of your hands, as it were. But can you provide investors and viewers with some likely near-term value inflection points and timelines?
I think referencing to what we've already said in some of the RNS statements that we've made, we've talked about a recent design win for Greenspur in the tidal sector. Advancing that design win into a future licensing agreement, that's quite an important inflection point in terms of the value signal that gives for the value within our Greenspur business. In terms of Diffusion Alloys, we've said that we're closing in on a significant number or multi-million pounds worth of big contracts. And I would expect to or hope to be able to announce the details behind some of those contract wins. Those are some of the inflection points that we look for in the short term. Okay.
So, Chris, as the new incumbent CEO, what key takeaway points do you want investors to remember from this interview?
That's a very good question. I think the key thing for every investor listening to this and watching this is to be able to look back in a year's time and say, I was there right at the beginning of this opportunity. We have an enormous opportunity. We have a share price at the moment which is depressed by the lack of liquidity in our trading platform. But this is very much 2026. I mean, this is very, very much the starting point for what I think is going to be a very significant long-term growth opportunity. And every shareholder should be thinking about being part of that.
Well, Chris, we wish you and the team every success for 2026, both with, of course, Diffusion Alloys, Greenspur, and with the Visarion acquisition. Chris Heminway, Chief Executive at Time to Act, many thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Alan.